Alright, Shalom. I want to give all the praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who taught me this truth, and Shalom to the hopeful elect. This is the book of Psalms chapter 28 and verse 3, and it reads, Draw me not away with the wicked and with the workers of iniquity, which speak peace to their neighbors, but mischief is in their hearts. Verse 4, Give them according to their deeds, and according to the wickedness of their endeavors. Give them after the work of their hands. Render to them their desert. NLT. Do not drag me away with the wicked, with those who do evil, those who speak friendly words to their neighbors, while planning evil in their hearts. Give them the punishment they so richly deserve. Measure it out in portion to their wickedness. Pay them back for all their evil deeds. Give them a taste of what they have done to others. If we go down, we're taking you with us. Israel's last resort in a nuclear crisis, the Samson option explained.
Israel has hit Iran's nuclear sites. Iran has struck back, targeting Israeli cities and hitting Soraka Medical Center in Beersheba. The death toll stands at 639 in Iran and 24 in Israel, with hundreds injured. Amid rising tensions, global focus is shifting to a chilling term: the Samson option.
The Samson option refers to Israel's unofficial doctrine of massive nuclear retaliation in the event of existential threat to the state. The term draws from the biblical story of Samson, who destroyed the Philistine temple, killing himself and his enemies in the final act of vengeance. In strategic terms, it implies that if Israel faces annihilation, it will unleash its nuclear arsenal onto its enemies, even at the cost of self-destruction.
Though Israel has never officially confirmed possessing nuclear weapons, it maintains a policy of Mimut, Hebrew for deliberate ambiguity. Foreign analysts estimate Israel holds between 80 to 400 nuclear warheads, deliverable by Jericho missiles, F-15, F-35 aircraft, and Dolphin-class submarines. The whole idea is to deter enemies by saying, if we go down, we're taking you with us. Israel's nuclear journey began in the 1950s. Driven by the trauma of Holocaust and the belief that state survival required ultimate deterrence. Under Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion, Israel, with covert assistance from France and Norway, built the Dimona nuclear facility in Negev Desert. By 1967 Six-Day War, Israel is believed to have assembled its first nuclear weapon. The doctrine of Samson option gained public attention through Seymour Hershey's 1991 book with the same name, and the 1986 revelations of Mordechai Vanunu, a former technician at Dimona, who leaked photos and technical data to the British press. Over the decades, Israeli leaders like Moshe Dayan, Ariel Sharon, and Shimon Peres have hinted at the existence of such a doctrine, reinforcing its role as a last resort deterrent. The ongoing war with Iran has raised fresh concerns that Israel might use the Samson option, its nuclear backup plan, if pushed to the edge. Israel's attacks on Iran's nuclear and military sites have triggered heavy missile retaliation, some even hitting civilian areas. At the same time, Hezbollah is active in the north and Houthis are posing threat in the Red Sea, putting Israel in danger of fighting on multiple fronts at once. If Iran were to launch a massive casualty strike, especially one involving chemical or radiological weapons, analysts warn that Israel could invoke the Samson option. The IDF has already claimed air superiority over Tehran, and Israeli officials have not ruled out targeting Iran's supreme leader. If Israel were to activate the Samson option, the consequences would be catastrophic. Loss of life and infrastructure. A nuclear exchange could result in hundreds of thousands of deaths across Iran and neighboring countries. Major cities like Tehran, Ifshan, and Mashhad could be obliterated. Fallout could affect Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and even parts of India and Central Asia. Environmental collapse. Nuclear strikes on Iran's reactor and enrichment sites could trigger radiological contamination across the region. The IAEA has already confirmed contamination at Natanz following conventional Israeli strikes. Global economic shock. Oil prices could skyrocket. The Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of global oil passes, would likely be closed. Global markets would plunge and supply chains would be paralyzed. Geopolitical fallout. A nuclear strike would shatter the non-proliferation treaty framework. Other regional powers like Saudi Arabia, Egypt and Turkey might pursue nuclear weapons. Russia and China could intervene diplomatically or militarily. The US would face immense pressure to either jump into the war or against the move. Humanitarian crisis. Millions of refugees would flee Iran, overwhelming neighboring countries. International aid agencies would struggle to respond amid radiation zones and collapsed infrastructure.
As the Israel-Iran war escalates, the world must reckon the terrifying possibility that nuclear deterrence could turn into nuclear devastation. The doctrine's very existence is meant to prevent such a scenario. But in a region where ideology trumps over diplomacy, the line between devastation and deterrence grows dangerously thin.
There you go. It's going to happen. All right. The Samson option, the last resort. Okay. And we're going to explain in this video why we're even closer of this happening, right? That's the point I want to make. Okay. This is Isaiah 9. In verse 5, it says, "For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. But this shall be with burning and fuel of fire." Okay, so this is how this world is going to go out on this side, man. Through nuclear devastation. Okay, Isaiah 34. Okay, Isaiah 34 and verse 2. And it reads, "For the indignation of the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushua, is upon all nations, and his fury is upon all their armies. He have utterly destroyed them. He have delivered them to the slaughter." Verse 3. "Their slain also shall be cast out, and their stink shall come up out of their carcasses, and the mountains shall be melted with their blood." So like we saw in the video, it talked about once they unleashed the Samson option, okay, it was going to cause total devastation in the so-called Middle East. Okay? It says, reading on here, it says verse 4, And all the host of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll, and all their hosts shall fall down, as the leaf falleth from the vine, and as the falling fig from the fig tree." All right, going into that mushroom cloud, all right, from that nuclear destruction. So I wanted to get into here, like I was saying, all right, again, we're going to make the point of why they're going to use that Samson option, man. Okay? As we've been bringing out, the whole world is waking up and coming against these people. All right? So they don't really have a choice. This is how you know that the Samson option will be used, and we're very close of this thing happening. All right? So let's build up to it. Here we go.
So we now have some new global polling on how residents of the world feel about various countries. Let's put this up on the screen. You will not be surprised, I think, viewers of the show, to learn that the most hated country in the entire world, beating out North Korea, actually by a pretty hefty margin here, is the nation state of Israel. Although isn't even a nation state when it doesn't really seem to have borders and continually expands and attacks whoever they want, whenever they want. It's a question for another day. In any case, they are the most hated national entity in the world. North Korea, Afghanistan, Iran, and then we are just narrowly by 1 point there liked better than Iran. Our standing has apparently plummeted quite significantly in the Democracy Perception Index. And you know, I don't know all the methodology, Sagar, of this polling, but it does not surprise me whatsoever that Israel is not exactly held in high regard. When you look at the way that they act like cry bullies in the world, when you look at the way that they attack all of their neighbors routinely, when you consider the fact that not just us, but the entire globe has watched the barbarism in their timelines of Israel committing a genocide and bragging about it and celebrating it. So, you know, the country that we hold out as our great ally and the most moral army in the world and the only democracy in the Middle East, blah, blah, blah. Turns out they have the lowest global perception of literally any place on the planet.
Yeah, it's actually
Yeah, there you go, Obadiah. Right? Obadiah 1:1, the vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Lord power concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from the Lord, Yahweh Shem Shai, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye and let us rise up against her in battle. Verse 2, behold, I have made thee small among the heathen, thou art greatly despised. Right? NLT, the Lord says to Edom, I will cut you down to size among the nations. You will be greatly despised. Right? They can't get away from it, man. Okay?
It's interesting when you pair this with how Americans perceive other countries in the world. So I forgot to add this in, but I will send it along so we can put it in post. When you ask Americans how the influence of other countries is growing, and this fits very much with the theme of our show now, number one is China. And this was a poll just taken a few days ago. And number two is Israel, actually. So who is getting stronger? The percent of American adults who say each country is getting stronger. China, 62%, Israel, 45%, Russia, 34%, US, 34%. So the US is actually number 4. So it's not really just the globe. I think it's that other countries are intuiting who has the upper hand in geopolitics. And what's actually fascinating to me is that Americans themselves are actually seeing through the own propaganda of their own media. Now, in many countries, India, for example, they have a vibrant, thriving press. They will talk all day long about the declining influence of the United States, about how India stands alone, about how, they can assess both with Israel, with Russia, and with the US. They can look at things, pretty easily. But when you look at other Asian countries, especially the more allied countries, they're usually pretty good. They're pretty good often about not showing in their media, let's say, something that's so detrimental to the United States. With Israel and all that, they didn't ever particularly care. But we've already paired this now with not only a lot of the outrage over how they conduct themselves in Gaza, but whenever this Iran war happened, they also were like, wow, now their belligerence is directly affecting us. And I think when you pair those two things together with the United States, with Israel, I mean, even with the US, let's say with our operation in Venezuela, one of the reasons I so opposed it was that obviously, between this and the Iran war, North Korea is never, ever giving up their nuclear weapons. Now, they probably weren't ever before that, but when you fly into another nation and capture their head of state because he doesn't have a nuke, and then you also launch a preemptive war to prevent another country from getting a nuke, and you can't even do that, you've erased, U.S. deterrence to any country which you're trying to do diplomacy with, probably for like the next 20 years. Well, you also, just imagine the outrage in any neutral or even quasi-allied country. They're like, wait, they did that to them. They could do this to us. And so that level of hatred, it's probably akin to the Iraq War. I remember I traveled a lot during the Iraq War. I was a teenager, living abroad.
Yeah, real quick, the hatred is great, man. All right, I was thinking about, Cain. All right, because these devils, they're the descendants of Cain. Right, and what happened? All right, Cain would be a fugitive, a vagabond. Right, let me get that real quick, man. People are ready to slay him. It's all spiritual, right? Genesis. So we'll make a point on that. Genesis 4 and 14. I'll start at 13. Right. This is Genesis chapter 4, verse 13. It says, "And Cain said unto the Lord, Yahweh Shem Shai, my punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hid." All right, because the Most High, wasn't dealing with Cain. All right, he was rejected. Okay, it says, "And from thy face shall I be hid, and thou should be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth. And it should come to pass that everyone that findeth me shall slay me." And this is where we at now. Okay, NLT, you have been banished from me. You have banished me from the land and from your presence. You have made me a homeless wanderer. Anyone who finds me will kill me. And this is the spirit that's in the earth now. Okay, people want to take vengeance Okay, again, these small hats, all right, these Edomites are the most hated people on earth, right? The most hated country on earth. Okay, so that spirit of vengeance, that spirit of anger is amongst all these nations, man. This is why we're at the brink of nuclear war. Okay, and again, tying it back to the point of that Samson option being the last resort, they're going to use it. All right, if we go down, we're taking everybody with us. All right, so we see how that's going to play out.
I mean, I don't particularly care all that much what like a Belgian thinks of the United States, but suffice it to say, it was not a lot. You know, it was not very well received, the Iraq War, and it wasn't just them. It was like everybody, like wherever you went, people were really mad. And when you add Israel in on top of this, and then the alliance, you know, bipartisan alliance really between Biden and between Trump over these last few years, people really, really have a negative view. I also think in Europe, it's not just Israel, it's also probably Ukraine. If I had to guess, obviously they're a lot more attached to the war in Ukraine than a lot of Americans are. And for them, you know, they had these very antiquated, idealized view of NATO. But for them, that's also a wake-up call. The fact is that, you know, Russia is going to have at least a portion of Ukraine. So I think you just put all these things together from Asia to Europe and across the world, the way they're feeling about Israel, the way they're feeling about the United States, and the assessment of who's getting stronger and having the upper hand. It all points in a very, very bad direction for American primacy, if that's something you ever cared about. And I certainly...
Yeah, both America and tiny top land, right? Job 18. Okay? Job 18 and 16. Right? I'll start at 15. Job 18:15, it shall dwell in his tabernacle because it is none of his. Brimstone shall be scattered upon his habitation. All right, nuclear destruction. His roots shall be dried up beneath, and above shall his branch be cut off. Right? The Lord is going to get rid of his line. His remembrance shall perish from the earth, and he shall have no name in the street. Right? Because this is the last of him. Right? He shall be driven from light into darkness, and chased out of the world, right? So again, that's the world, you know, that vengeance that the people have against these people, these Edomites, both America and small hat land. All right, now they're standing up. They want payback. They want blood. Okay, and should be chased out of the world. He should neither have son nor nephew among his people, nor any remaining in his dwellings. Again, the Lord's going to cut his line off. Right? NLT, they will have neither children nor grandchildren, nor any survivor in the place where they live. Ooh, man. You see? Verse 20, that they come after him, that they that come after him shall be astonished at his day, as they went before were affrighted. Surely such are the dwellings of the wicked, and this is the place of him that knoweth not Yahweh Shemel Washah. So we're approaching his end quickly, man. Okay? As the Lord said, he's going to get rid of his line. His branch should be cut off. Right? Let me add some more into that real quick. Back in Obadiah. Let's go back there. Right? Obadiah 1 and 18. Okay? They know what's coming, man. Right? Obadiah 1 and 18. The house of Jacob should be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble. All right, your house is your bloodline, man. And the house of Esau for stubble, and they should kindle a fire in them and devour them. And it says, and there should not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for the Lord Yahweh Shemel Washah have spoken it. Okay, you understand the whole world is fed up. You see, Psalm 21. And 10. All right, Psalms 21 and 10. And it reads, it says, their fruit shall thou destroy from the earth, and their seed from among the children of men. NLT, you will wipe their children from the face of the earth. They will never have descendants, right? This is what's getting ready to happen to the Edomites, man. The whole world is preparing for war, man, to bring an end to these people. All right, everything is it's all the spirit.
We did. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
How far?
So let's just pass.
say it's also, I mean, just think of ourselves.
Of Ukraine. So I think you just put all these things together from Asia to Europe and across the world, the way they're feeling about Israel, the way they're feeling about the United States, and the assessment of who's getting stronger and having the upper hand. It all points in a very, very bad direction for American primacy, if that's something you ever cared about. And I certainly did. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's also, I mean, just think of our self-conception as always like the good guys in the world, and then you look at this and you're like, you're ranked the same as Iran. Congratulations. And Iran supposedly, in our conception, on the axis of evil, et cetera, et cetera. And I suspect that most of this polling was done before the Iran war. I'm going to make a prediction here that the view of Iran in the world is going to surge because they've come off looking much more like the reasonable party in this war. I mean, they were the ones who were attacked. They were not the aggressive offender in this regard. And they've been very effective with their propaganda campaign, the Lego videos and the new Minion videos and all these things that are coming out that are appealing to an American audience.
Yeah, those Lego videos, man, they've been really, cutting these devils, man. They've been exposing everything, man. All right? And, bros did lessons on it showing you how, the God they worship, they had the Baphomet and the Baal, and they set it on fire. All right, they showed the trafficking. They gave hints on that, right? They were showing that that America was a spiritual Egypt, Babylon. They've been exposing a lot in those so-called those Lego videos, man. The propaganda and stuff like that. So that again, the whole world is waking up.
They're appealing to a global audience. So, that I think that alone, given our sense of American exceptionalism and that we're the shining beacon on the hill and all this sort of thing, to see us ranking there with Iran, Afghanistan, North Korea, and then our great ally Israel is should be pretty stunning. One wake-up call, I think, for a lot of Americans about how we are viewed at this point, and justifiably, not out of envy or blah, 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 but because of the way that we have conducted ourselves in the world, certainly in this Trump administration, but as you point to, the Iraq war, going back further. Let's jump ahead here for a moment to C5, because this ties directly into Israel's view in the world and the way they've tried to manipulate the perception of Israel on the global stage. So there's this contest called Eurovision where countries compete with a pop star and they have a song. I've never actually watched it. I've only seen some clips on.
All right, let's add some more real quick. Let's go to this one. All right, but like she was saying, that ties back to that shameful spewing. Let me get that real quick. Habakkuk 2:16. All right, because how America and these small hats are being viewed by the world is unfavorable. It's in a horrible light. Habakkuk 2:16, thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord's right hand should be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. And that's what's happening worldwide. Okay? Everything that's been revealed and exposed in this time, the whole world sees it. See? NLT, but soon it will be turned, but soon it will be your turn to be disgraced. Come and drink and be exposed. Drink from the cup of the Lord's judgment, and all your glory shall be turned to shame. Exactly. And they can't escape it. Okay? Their shame is being seen on the world stage, man. And it's a terrible look that they can't get out of. Right? So let's jump to here. Here's another one from Breaking Points. It says, BB blames social media for anti-you-know-what as NYT horrifying report drops.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, in his splashy 60 Minutes interview on Sunday night, which Crystal and I covered yesterday, also made some comments in regard to what he sees as rising anti-Semitism. And he has a theory of why this is apparently happening. It is related to, you guessed it, social media. Let's take a listen to this first thought.
We have seen the deterioration of the support for Israel in the United States almost I would say it correlates almost 100% with the geometric rise of social media. And that by itself is not what caused it. And I don't believe in censoring them or anything, but I'll tell you what happened. We have several countries that basically manipulated social media with bot farms, with fake addresses, to break the American sympathy to Israel, to break the American-Israeli alliance because they think it's in their interests. And they do it in a clever way. You know, it's like you hear a text message. I'm a red-blooded Texan. I always supported Israel, but I can't stand what they're doing. I'm turning against Israel. And then you trace the address to some basement in Pakistan, you know. And that's that.
Yeah, that's crazy. And he just admitted that, look, they're tracing everything, the comments, everything we've been warning you about, man. They're going back and they're seeing who's leaving comments, who's watching videos, who's saying what, because they're guilty, right? Real quick, this is Job 20 and verse 27. And it reads, it says, the heavens shall reveal his iniquity. The heaven going back to the prophets, all right? And also this internet, man. Okay? The heavens shall reveal his iniquity, and the earth shall rise up against him. Verse 27, right? The heavens will reveal their guilt, and the earth will testify against them. You see that? So there's nothing they can do. All right? They're in a corner, man. And we know, just based off what he's saying, okay, it's all going to lead to the famine of the word. They're getting ready to censor everything. All right? They're going to, they already got you categorized. You see? This is why all this stuff that we've been going, you know, bringing out these lessons about dealing with social media, all right? They're getting ready to shut it all down, as we've been warning you all about, all right? Amos 8 and 11. Okay? The guilt and the exposure is destroying them, man. Okay? Amos 8 and 11, behold, the days come, saith the Lord power, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of the Lord. Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Okay, it's coming. And they shall wander from sea to sea, from the north even to the east. They shall run to and fro to seek the word of the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushai, and shall not find it. All right? So now we understand why. Okay?
Clever way, you know, it's like you hear a text message. I'm a red-blooded Texan. I always supported Israel, but I can't stand what they're doing. I'm turning against Israel. And then you trace the address to some basement in Pakistan, you know. And that's something that has hurt us badly. While we were fighting the physical military battle on 7 battlefields, 7-front war, we were completely exposed on the 8th front. The media war, really the social media war.
There you go. He just said it. Thy own tongue shall fall upon themselves. They've been exposed. What's being brought out against them on social media has hurt them, man. They can't control the narrative. You see?
In a healthy political climate, he would be asked to apologize for those comments, because he is implying that the American people are so stupid that dumb little text messages are what swayed them to start, especially he's talking about the American right. You can hear, because he talks about this red-blooded American Texan. That's his way of talking specifically about Republican voters, conservatives, right-leaners in the United States are just so dumb that their opinions can't possibly be informed. That if they have lost, if their support for Israel is declining, it's because they are misinformed, ill-informed, disinformed, or too stupid to actually just have an opinion that differs from Prime Minister Netanyahu's, as Americans, by the way, people who believe their country's interests, their family interests, their children's interests are out of line with the party that Netanyahu, the Likud party, essentially. And so I'm going to toss this over to you with also the news that Israel is now bragging, basically, about banning Tyler Oliveira from entering the country. This is the next element. It's a Laura Loomer exclusive. She posts Israel's Minister of Diaspora and Combating Anti-Semitism exclusively tells me, quote, it was his pleasure to make sure Tyler Oliveira could not enter Israel today upon landing in the country from the U.S. She mentions, of course, also that Tyler just completed an interview with Tucker Carlson in which they bashed Israel with lies, and then Tyler hopped on an El Al flight to Israel, Sagar. So it's all just an op from foreign countries manipulating Americans, manipulating Tucker Carlson.
And that Edomite, he's been doing a whole bunch of videos we've seen, All right, on how they live, how these small hats are living off that welfare. They eating good, man, and nobody knows how they make money. What they do. He was asking them questions, right? So he tried to go over to the small hat land, and they banned him from coming back. You see, so through and through, these people are being exposed all over the place, man. Right?
And using him, he's all. This is all from foreign money. It couldn't possibly be American people saying this is what is in my rational interest based on the best information that they could come up with.
Yeah, you really should read actually what this guy said, the minister of the diaspora. He says the party is over. Anyone who comes here with the aim of spreading hatred will be sent back where they came from. This follows the implementation of the new policy. Entry into Israel or activity within Israel will not be permitted for anyone who disseminates anti-Semitic content, supports BDS, or incites against the state of Israel and the Jewish people. The rule is simple. Whoever incites against us simply will not be here. And of course, Tyler Oliveira, to my knowledge, the video which they are the most upset with him about is the one about, I think it was a Hasidic Jewish community, I think, in New Jersey. Okay, listen, go watch it, for yourself.
Go watch it.
You can decide, whether it's anti-Semitic or not. I would say it fits within the broad catalog of the work that he...
Yeah, he exposed them damn devils, man. All right, he has a whole bunch of videos showing it. You can go check it out if you ain't seen it, man. But hey, that's the point. You can watch the rest of that, but just bringing it back full circle. Again, now we understand why, okay, they're going to bring this thing. All right, this is the last resort. Okay? Israel's last resort in a nuclear crisis, the Samson option explained. All right, if we go down, we're taking you with us. So now it all makes sense, man. Okay? Definitely not a lot of time left. Right? But that's pretty much the point, man. All right, I pray that you were edified, and shalom to the next one. Shalom.